Welcome back to your Java game development tutorial. And today we're going to show you how, so one of the things that we want to change is, crap, sorry. I just showed you the wrong tutorial series. So you notice how when I hit start, the panel starts immediately. It just starts. And some players may not really appreciate that. And if you look at a lot of games, there's normally some kind of screen that's like, maybe it has a countdown or something along those lines to make it more make sure the player is ready right when the game starts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a splash screen, and we might not do a countdown, and if you want to do that, that's something that you could figure out fairly easily. But I want to show you how to set up a splash screen so you know how to do that. So we're going to work in our panels in our main, and so we're going to make a new panel, and it's going to be called splash. And we're going to use this for every splash screen that we make, well, unless you want to make it slightly different than this one, which I would recommend you extend this one in that case. But first we got to make our splash screen. And it's just going to be another game panel. It's pretty much what it is. But we're gonna accept a game, but we're also gonna accept an integer for our next panel. So we'll have and the next panel represents the next panel that it's going to go to after the splash screen is over. So, whatever you want on the splash screen is completely up to you guys. It could be a countdown, it could just say something like, don't get killed, or whatever, that's completely customizable for your game. Okay, so the way the splash screen is going to work is every game panel has an array list of alarms, which I have not gone over with you yet. But there are if you're going to use an alarm, there are two array lists that you need to know about. There is the alarms, and then there's alarm status. And you have to use both of these. Never separate the two, or else you're going to run into some serious issues. So we're going to say alarms.add, and this is going to accept an integer. So this integer represents the duration from the time that the alarm is started to when the alarm goes off. So for us, I'm just going to say 60. So after 60 counts, it's going to go off. And then I'm going to say alarm status dot add, and this is going to accept a boolean, and this represents whether or not the alarm is on or off. So we're going to say alarm status dot add true, because we want the alarm to start as soon as we start the panel. As soon as the panel is created, actually, because we're not going to wait to start the panel at all. And then there's another method that we need to override, which is called alarm active. And this method is called when an alarm goes off. And believe it or not, you don't need the super method in this case. And we're going to use the switch case for the position. And then we're going to say if case is 0, we're going to do this. And then make sure when you do this, just put 0 in here. I know it's not necessary, but it always makes me more comfortable when you're trying to reference an object inside an array list to always put the number here, because it just makes me more comfortable. So for now, I think we're just going to test it. So when this alarm goes off, I want a console output that says alarm test. And we'll get into other stuff later. So now we need to look at the game class, and I'm going to add a new public static integer, and it's going to be splash, I should spell splash correctly, equal to 2. And then we are not going to put our splash in our init panel method, because this method is called at a certain time by the start panel method, which is, basically what I'm going to say is we are not going to do the same thing that the game engine is going to want us to do with the start panel, because we're going to start a splash screen and we need an extra parameter, so we got to make a whole new method for ourselves. And I'm just going to say public static void start splash, and we're going to accept a driver D and an integer next panel, just to make things simple for ourselves. And so what's going to happen here is we're going to say panels.get, and we're going to get the current panel, and then we're going to say stop, because we need to stop the panel before we go on. This stops the thread and everything else with the panel. And then we're going to say panels.get. We're going to get the current panel again, dot set visible to false. And then, so we're basically taking that panel and we're going to stop painting it to our JFrame. So now we're going to say current panel equals our next panel. Well, sorry, no, that's not. That's what we would normally do if we were just making a plain old start panel method. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to make we need to create our splash screen, basically. So we're going to say panels.add, and then we're going to say splash new splash, and then we're going to accept a driver, which is our D, nice and easy. And then we're going to, we need our next panel. So that's just, I didn't need to delete that, sorry. So then we add our panel, but we're not finished. Now we need to say panels dot, hold on, did I do this correctly? Once we've added this new panel, current panel should be equal to current panel should be equal to splash, because we are now on our splash screen, not the next panel, which technically the splash screen is the next panel. But anyways, we'll get away from that topic. Panels.get current panel dot set visible to true, and then panels.get current panel dot, we set it visible, so now we can start the panel. And there's one more thing we need to do. And we're going to go back up to our constructor of the game. And this, you really need to pay attention. If you're just flying through these tutorials, not really paying attention to what I say, pay attention to these words coming out of my mouth, because this is very important. When you're working with an array list and you start accessing elements that are not in order, you're going to run into issues. And so what we're going to do is we are going to initiate all of the elements that we're going to use. So right now we only have 3 elements, 0, 1, and 2. If you count those on your fingers, we have 3. And we're going to just add a new game panel. And this is very, very important, because if you don't do this, you're going to have issues. And no one likes issues. So make sure you do this. Basically what I've done is for every element that we have, we are going to add just a game panel. We're not going to do anything with it. It's just really a placeholder. That way we can have our splash screens and we can access our panels out of order. Whenever you add a new panel, make sure you add a number as this 3, or else you're going to run into issues, like I said. Because right now we have 1, 2, 3 panels. So for every panel you need this to go up. So anyways, now that that's happened, I think we're ready to test everything. And the way I'm going to test this is I'm just going to open up menu, and I'm going to scroll down to start, and instead of saying game.start panel, we're going to say capitalize game dot start splash this, well, sorry, not this, game, and then our next panel, let's just say game dot level 1. Now it's not going to start level 1, this is just going to run our test and hopefully print something out in the console. And that was not what's supposed to happen. This is why we always test things. Why would it do that? I think it opened our splash screen. Hold on. Okay, the alarm should have went off if this was a splash screen. I may have to stop the video for this one. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, so we made a careless mistake. Go back to your game class, and what we just did is we initialized our current panel, which is panel 0, our menu, and then we wrote over it with an empty game panel. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut this and then put it up here. That way we are filling all of our elements and then adding our current panel. That was a really stupid mistake on my part. Sorry about that. So now let's test. We have our menu. We hit start. Here's our splash screen. And as you can see, the console opened and it says alarm test. So now let's go to our splash screen and let's go to alarm active. And instead of just printing out in the console, we're going to say game.start panel next panel. So this is going to start our game, basically. And so we're going to hit play, and there we go. There's our splash screen. Now you can put anything on your splash screen that you like. And because it's just like any other game panel, you can really put anything on it you want. I mean, it's unlimited stuff. Unlimited potential. And I'm just going to make mine look a little bit better real quickly. And so this is a really nice tool to have. My games normally had like 3 different splash screens that I would use for different purposes. I'd make a general one like this and adapt it for future use, and it's just a nice thing to have when you're making your game. And, you know, it works. I already said a lot of this. I feel like I'm wasting time now. A lot of this I could be doing off screen. I really messed up on that. Okay, and again, you don't have to design yours like mine. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going for something kind of generic, I guess. Whoa, that was weird. That was not what I was expecting to happen. Hold on, guys. Why did my screen not turn black? That's so weird. I'm gonna look into that.